I wasn't looking for a fight that morning. I was looking for a mistake. The alert popped on Atlas. Morgan Stanley's internal monitoring system. A wire transfer flag for unusual activity. I almost clicked past it. We get hundreds a day, but the name in the originator field stopped me cold. Claire Bennett, my wife. Hey, Miranda, I said, leaning toward the compliance officer 2 desks over. This a glitch? We got a Claire Bennett hitting our filters. Miranda Ortiz didn't even look up. Which Claire Bennett? We got 3 in the database. Our Claire Bennett, your private client group, VP, Manhattan branch. That got her attention. She swiveled, eyes narrowing at my screen. That shouldn't be crossing our desk. Chase's problem, not ours. It's a wire to Chase. I said, but the funding source is a Morgan margin loan against our joint brokerage. 800 grand. Miranda whistled low. You sure you want to touch that? I saved the alert to my queue. I'm sure I have to. By 6, I was home. Claire was already there, pouring a glass of Sancerre, still in her tailored navy suit. She looked flawless. As always, I hated how much that annoyed me in that moment. Hey, I said, keeping my tone light. Quick question. Did you move 6 figures out of our joint account last week? Her hand froze mid-pour. Not a lot, just enough. Then she finished filling the glass and turned. All practice calm. That's none of your business. Dan, it's temporary. None of my business? I pulled out my phone. Opened the app. We're jointly liable for that margin call. And it's not 6 figures. It's 800,000. Where to go? To a holding account. Ethan needed bridge financing. The name hit like a punch to the gut. Etan Hade, her ex-husband, the guy who'd been banned from the securities industry for insider trading 3 years back. You moved our money to him? Are you out of your mind? Don't you dare judge him. She snapped. He's being framed. Again, the SEC is circling, and if he doesn't settle some outstanding debts, they'll bury him. I'm protecting him until it blows over. Protecting him with our savings? I stepped closer. What about the kid's college fund? What about the mortgage? Relax. It's coming back. With interest. Ethan's got a new fund launching. Silent Partners. High yield. By Q4, we'll be liquid again. He's still here. You're talking about Hale Capital Partners. That's not a real fund. Claire, it's an LLC registered to a UPS store in White Plains. She set her glass down. Hard. You've been digging. Damn right I have. I ran the trail. 4 months. Claire, you've siphoned off $1.8 million from our joint accounts, from the trust one set up for mom's care. How the hell did you even move the trust money without my signature? I'm the trustee too, remember? And I know how to reclassify distributions for medical contingencies. It's legal. It's fraud. I said, and you use your access at Chase to bury the transfers. That's a Reg SB violation. At minimum, possibly wire fraud if you misrepresented the purpose to the bank. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think your precious compliance rules apply to me? I've been moving 7-figure sums since before you passed your Series 7. I know how to bury transactions where your little Atlas toy can't find them. Too late, I said quietly. Atlas already found it. I froze the remaining balance in the margin account pending review. Her face went white, then red. You froze it? You went behind my back? After everything I've done for this family? Everything you've done? I shot back. You emptied us out for a convicted felon. Do you hear yourself? He's using you. Claire, he always has. Get out, she said, voice trembling. Get out of my sight before I say something we'll both regret. I didn't move. We need to talk to a lawyer. Today, or I'm filing an SCR. She crossed the room so fast I didn't see the slap coming. The sound cracked through the apartment. My cheek stung, but I didn't raise a hand. I just looked at her. You do that, she hissed, and I'll tell the FDIC you coerced me, that you needed cash to cover your own gambling debt. Who do you think they'll believe? A mid-level risk analyst with a spotless record, or a Chase VP who's never had a mark on her file? I nodded slowly. That's your play? Okay, then I'll make sure that you, S. Attorney knows exactly how you structured those transactions to avoid currency transaction reports. That's structuring. Claire, that's federal. We stood there, breathing hard, the air between us toxic. Finally, I turned for the door. I'm going to the office. I'll be filing the report tonight. If you try to move anything else, I'll know, and I'll add obstruction of justice to the list. Then, she called after me, voice suddenly soft, pleading. Don't. Please. I can fix this. Just give me 2 weeks. I didn't look back. 2 weeks is how long it'll take for the FBI to knock on our door. And when they do, I'm not going down with you. I drove to the office, even though it was nearly 9 p.m. The building was half empty. I logged into Secure Terminal, pulled up the SAR template. Suspicious activity report. The words felt heavy. I typed quickly, sticking to facts. Amounts, dates, entities. Hale Capital Partners, LLC. I attached the transaction logs I'd pulled earlier, the ones showing Claire's internal memos at Chase reclassifying the wires as interbank liquidity management. Just as I hit submit to compliance, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Wrong move. Carter, you don't know who you're messing with. Walk away while you still can. I stared at it. Then I forwarded it to my personal email, saved the metadata, and drafted a quick email to the OCC's New York Regional Office, CCing the Federal Reserve Board. Potential retaliatory contact following internal SAR filing. I wrote, request guidance on personal security protocols. As I shut down my computer, I realized my hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. I'd spent a decade analyzing risk for other people. Tonight, I'd finally calculated my own, and the numbers didn't lie. I was married to a felon, and I'd just become the star witness in a federal case. I walked out into the Manhattan night, the city humming around me, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. It wouldn't last, but for now, it was enough. The email from Miranda Ortiz hit my inbox at 7:03 a.m. Subject line, urgent, Hale matter follow-up. I was still at my desk from the night before, running on black coffee in spite. Daniel, your SAR triggered an EDDA. Come to the 42nd floor. Now, use a secure elevator. At a enhanced due diligence account review. They weren't just looking at Claire anymore. They were dissecting her entire book of business. I took the elevator up, swiping my badge twice to access the compliance floor. Miranda was waiting outside the glass wall conference room, arms crossed. You forgot to mention you're married to the subject, she said by way of greeting. I didn't forget. I filed the SAR anonymously. Doesn't matter. Your name's on the joint accounts. You're a material witness. Maybe more. See? Inside, 2 men in rumpled suits were already seated. One flashed a badge, FBI, Financial Crimes Task Force. The other handed me a business card, U.S. Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York. Mr. Carter, I'm Special Agent Kelsey Tran. This is AUSA David Reyes. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your wife's recent transactions. Reyes didn't waste time. Did you authorize the August 14th wire transfer of $450, 000 to Hale Capital Partners? No. Were you aware your wife was diverting funds from your joint brokerage account to cover margin calls for Hale Capital? Not until last night. Tran leaned forward. And yet, you work in risk management. You didn't notice $1. $8 million, leaving your household over 4 months? I noticed. I said evenly. Last night, I reviewed the statements after seeing the initial wire alert. That's when I filed the SAR. Convenient timing. Reyes muttered. It's not timing. It's math. I run variance reports weekly. She used internal Chase codes to reclassify the withdrawals as client servicing fees and regulatory compliance disbursements. They bypassed our retail monitoring thresholds. Miranda jumped in. We're auditing those codes now. If she abused privileged access, it's a termination level offense. Possibly criminal. Criminal is right. Tran said, we've been watching Ethan Hale for 18 months. Suspected boiler room operation. Penny stock pump and dump. Your wife's funds kept his shell companies afloat. I shook my head. She thinks he's innocent. She says he's being framed. Reyes laughed dryly. Everyone says that. Here's the reality. Hale's burning through investor cash to pay off a gambling debt in Macau. Your wife's not saving him. She's laundering his losses. The words landed like stones. I thought of the life insurance policy Claire had taken out on me last year, the one she claimed was a long-term planning tool. I made a mental note to pull the documents. I want immunity, I said abruptly. Reyes raised an eyebrow. Immunity from what? We haven't charged you with anything. Yet, if Claire claims I co-signed or benefited, I'm implicated. I want a proffer agreement. I'll testify to everything I know, including her internal procedures at Chase. Tran exchanged a glance with Reyes. We'll consider it. But right now, we need access to your accounts. All of them. Done. But I want it documented that I'm cooperating voluntarily. They spent the next hour walking me through consent forms and grand jury protocols. By the time I left the conference room, Claire's direct line at Chase was already ringing Miranda, suspending her pending investigation. I called her cell as I rode the elevator down. Voicemail. I tried again from the lobby. This time, she picked up, voice like ice. You bastard. They just escorted me out of the branch. Good. That means you can't delete any more files. Delete? I'm not deleting anything. I'm fixing this. Ethan's lawyer says if we return the funds by Friday, there are no funds. Claire, you spent them. And returning stolen money doesn't erase the crime. It's called restitution. And it happens after conviction. Conviction? She laughed, sharp and brittle. You think a jury is going to believe a word you say? I'll tell them you were the mastermind, that you needed cash to cover your losses in the market. I'll show them the text where you asked me to move money quietly. Those texts don't exist, but the audit logs do. Every keystroke you made inside Chase's core banking system is time-stamped, including the ones where you altered transaction descriptions to hide the Hale transfers. Silence. Then, a new voice came on the line. Male. Smug. Ethan. Carter. You're making a big mistake. Man, you don't know who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A two-bit fraudster who can't stay out of the SEC's crosshairs. And a wife who's too blind to see she's just your exit strategy. Ethan's tone turned cold. You think testifying helps you? You're a rat, Dan. And rats don't live long in this town. I've got friends who remember what happened to Madoff's neighbors. Accidents happen. Save the threats for someone who cares. I said, I've already forwarded our conversation to Agent Tran. Recording laws in New York are one-party consent, in case you forgot. So enjoy your evening. Ethan, it might be your last one as a free man. I hung up and blocked the number. Outside, the sun was bright. Indifferent, I walked to a nearby Duane Reade, bought a burner phone, and called Agent Tran. Ethan Hale just contacted me. Threatening witness intimidation. I recorded the call. Good. Bring the phone to our office. We'll clone it. And Daniel, don't go home tonight. We'll arrange protective detail. I'm not hiding. I said, I'm meeting my lawyer, Russ Gallo, former SDNY prosecutor. Met me at a diner on Canal Street. Over burnt coffee. I laid it out. She's going to flip on me. I finished. Claim I was involved. Russ wiped his mouth. Can she prove it? No, but she's got access to internal memos. She could forge my signature on a transaction authorization. She's done it before with the trust distributions. Then we preempt her. We file a civil RICO claim against her and Hale. It forces discovery. We get their bank records, emails, everything, and it shows you're the victim, not the perpetrator. Will it stick? Against Hale? Absolutely. Against Claire? Tougher. Spousal privilege cuts both ways. But if she's using marital assets for criminal enterprise, the privilege evaporates. We call it the crime fraud exception. I nodded slowly. Do it. File today. Russ pulled out his phone. One more thing. The feds will want a proffer session. You sit down with Reyes and Tran. Tell them everything. In exchange, they agree not to charge you. But, and this is critical, you cannot lie. One misstatement. and the deal's void. I won't lie. You'll be under oath. Literally. They'll swear you in, and Claire's lawyers will rip you apart on cross. You ready for that? I thought of Claire's face last night. The slap, the lies, the $1. 8 million. I'm ready as Russ stepped out to make calls. My personal phone buzzed. A news alert. Chase Bank suspend VP amid internal probe. Sources say fraud investigation underway. Below it, a photo of Claire leaving the Manhattan branch, flanked by security. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt hollow. 10 years of marriage. Gone because she chose a con man over her own future. But as I watched the elevator doors close on her career, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going down with her. I texted Agent Tran, ready for proffer. Name the time. Her reply came seconds later. 0900 tomorrow. SDNY headquarters. Bring your burner. I pocketed the phone and walked into the glare of the afternoon. Behind me, the city moved on. And ahead, the grand jury waited. The proffer session lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of Reyes and Tran taking turns peeling back every layer of my marriage, my finances, my career. I told them about the margin loans, the trust fund diversion, the internal chase codes Claire used to mask the wires. I told them about Ethan's threat on the burner phone. I didn't flinch. I didn't omit. When they asked if I'd ever benefited from Hale Capital, I said no. When they asked if I'd ever suspected Claire before the August wire, I said only in hindsight. At 3 p.m. Reyes slid a letter across the table. Letter of non-prosecution. Conditional on continued cooperation. I signed it. Russ Gallo witnessed it. As we left the SDNY building, cameras were already flashing. Someone shouted, "Mr. Carter, is it true your wife laundered money for her ex-husband?" I kept walking. Russ muttered, "Don't engage." Not yet. 2 days later, the grand jury convened. I sat in a hard wooden chair, sworn in, facing 23 New Yorkers who looked about as thrilled to be there as I was. Reyes led the direct examination. "Mr. Carter, when did you first become aware of unusual activity in your joint accounts?" "August 14th. I saw a wire alert from our internal monitoring system." "And what did you do?" "I investigated. Found approximately $1. 8 million transferred to entities controlled by Ethan Hale over 4 months." "Did your wife, Claire Bennett, have authorization to make those transfers?" "Technically, yes. She was a joint owner. But under New York law, marital funds require mutual consent for major disbursements. She didn't seek mine." Objection. Claire's lawyer, a sharp-suited woman named Lena Petrakis, called out. Speculation on intent. Sustained. The foreperson said. Reyes pivoted. "Mr. Carter, did your wife ever indicate why she was transferring these funds?" "She said Ethan was being framed, that she was protecting him." "Did you believe her?" "No. The numbers didn't add up. Hale Capital had no verifiable assets." Petrakis stood for cross. "Mr. Carter, isn't it true you've been unhappy in your marriage for some time?" Objection. Russ said. Relevance. Withdrawn. Petrakis said smoothly. "Mr. Carter, you work in risk management, correct? High-pressure job?" "Yes." "And you've had performance reviews noting excessive caution and inability to assess interpersonal risk, haven't you?" I blinked. I don't recall that phrasing. Let me refresh your memory." She handed me a document, my annual review from Morgan Stanley. There was struggles with qualitative risk assessment beyond quantitative models. "So, you're good with numbers, bad with people, like your wife, perhaps?" Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. Petrakis smiled thinly. "Mr. Carter, isn't it possible you misinterpreted your wife's actions because you struggle to understand human motivation?" I understood the motivation just fine. She stole our money to bail out her ex-stealing, or a marital gift. Under New York law, spouses can make gifts to third parties without the other's consent, provided it's not fraudulent conveyance. It was fraudulent. She hid it. She altered bank records. Allegedly. And those allegations come from you, a man whose career depends on finding problems where none exist. Russ stood. "Your Honor, This is character assassination. Overruled. Move along. Ms. Petrakis. She moved along straight to the jugular. Mr. Carter. Did you ever threaten your wife? No, never say. I'll ruin you? Never suggest you'd file false reports to gain leverage in a divorce? I filed a truthful SAR. That's not a threat. It's a legal obligation. After you discovered the transfers, did you change the locks on your home? I didn't change the locks. I stayed in a hotel. Because you were afraid? Or because you wanted to create the appearance of a rift? Reyes objected again. The back and forth blurred. I kept my answers short. Factual. Until Petrakis played her final card. Mr. Carter, we have a recording. A phone call between you and Mrs. Bennett on August 20th. Would you like to explain why you said, I'll make sure the U.S. attorney knows exactly how you structured those transactions? Sounds like coercion to me. I stayed calm. That's not coercion. That's stating the legal consequences of structuring, which is a federal crime. Or it's you threatening to fabricate evidence unless she complied with your demands. I don't have any demands, except telling the truth. Petrakis sat down. Reyes redirected, focusing on the audit trails, the internal chase logs, the forensic accountant's report. By the time we broke for the day, my throat was raw. Russ squeezed my shoulder. You held up. She's trying to paint you as the unstable spouse. Standard defense tactic. Outside, the media circus was louder. Dan, did your wife act alone? Are you cooperating with the FBI? I ignored them until a reporter from the Wall Street Journal shoved a recorder in my face. Mr. Carter, sources say Ethan Hale claims you were the mastermind. Any comment? I stopped, looked right at the lens. Ethan Hale's a convicted felon who spent the last 3 years defrauding investors. If he says the sky is blue, check the forecast. My only role here is as a witness to my wife's crimes, and I'll keep testifying until the truth is on the record. The next morning, the prosecution played the bombshell. Agent Tran took the stand, authenticating Exhibit G, a recorded call between Ethan and Claire, intercepted under a Title III wiretap. The courtroom went silent as the audio played. Use the trust. Claire, worst case. We pin it on Dan. He's a risk analyst. He should have caught it sooner. Makes him negligent. Maybe complicit. He'll fight back. Let him. His word against ours. And if he talks, we say he's bitter. Midlife crisis. Gambling debts. Who knows? Juries love a scorned husband narrative. I watched Claire's face as the recording ended. She didn't cry. She didn't react. She just stared at the table. Jaw tight. Petrakis immediately moved to suppress. Hearsay. No foundation. Reyes countered. Admissible under the co-conspirator exception. Your Honor, the recording establishes conspiracy to defraud, involving both defendants. The judge leaned back. I'll allow it. For now. As we filed out, Ethan mouthed something at me from across the aisle. I didn't need to read lips. Rat. I mouthed back, felony. Russ nudged me toward the exit. That recording just sunk them both. Hang tight. We're close. Close. But not done, because as I stepped into the hallway, I saw a familiar face near the elevators. Claire's sister, Megan, holding a manila envelope. She avoided my gaze. I wondered what new lie was about to surface. I texted Agent Tran. Megan Bennett just entered the courthouse. Unknown delivery. Her reply, already on it. Stay sharp. I leaned against the wall, watching the elevator numbers climb. Somewhere above, a grand jury was deciding indictments. Somewhere below, my marriage was being buried under a mountain of evidence. And somewhere in between, I was learning the hardest lesson of my career. Numbers never lie, but people lie constantly. And the truth? It's usually the last thing anyone wants to hear. Reyes called a meeting at the U.S. Attorney's office on a Tuesday. No Russ this time, just me, Reyes, and Tran sitting around a scarred conference table. We're offering Claire a plea. Reyes said, without preamble, 5 years flat, restitution, cooperation against Hale, but it hinges on you. I lean back. Me? Your testimony is the linchpin. Tran said, if you sign a cooperating witness agreement, We guarantee no charges against you, ever, on this matter. In exchange, you take the stand at trial. And if I don't, then we rescind the non-prosecution letter. You become a material witness with no immunity. We can compel your testimony. But if Petrakis rips you apart on cross, the jury might doubt the whole case. Worse, Claire walks, Hale walks, and you're left explaining to FINRA why you sat on a SAR for 48 hours. I tapped the table. 48 hours is not willful blindness. It's due diligence. Tell that to a jury. Reyes said, sign the agreement. Dan, it's the only way to guarantee they go down. I didn't sign. Not yet. I want to see the draft. I want language specifying that my testimony is limited to documented facts, not speculation. And I want witness protection discussed. Ethan's not subtle. Tran smirked. Witness protections for people in witness protection. You're a cooperating witness in a white-collar case. We'll give you a referral to NYPD's Threat Management Unit. But that's it. Fine. Send the draft. I left the building and walked straight into an ambush. Claire's sister Megan was waiting by the elevators. Same manila envelope from yesterday. Dan, she said, voice low, Claire wanted you to have this. I didn't take it. If it's a message, tell her to use her lawyer. It's not a message. It's proof. Proof that you're not as clean as you think. I grabbed the envelope, stepped into the stairwell. Inside, printed emails. From my Morgan Stanley address. To Claire. Subject lines like margin call options and trust liquidity strategies. The content was mundane, risk assessments I'd sent her months ago, but the timestamps were altered in the printouts. They showed dates after fraudulent transfers began. I called Russ immediately. She's manufacturing evidence. These emails are real, but the metadata's been doctored. She's trying to show I was advising her post-transfer, which implies knowledge and consent. Can you prove it? I can pull the originals from our exchange server. The headers won't match. But Petrakis will argue spoliation. Say I deleted the originals to hide my involvement. Then we don't rely on your copies. We subpoena Morgan Stanley's backup tapes. They retain everything for 7 years. If the backups show different timestamps, Claire's cooked. Assuming the judge allows it, Petrakis will move to exclude as prejudicial. Let her. We've got bigger fish. Ethan's talking. Talking how? Through his cellmate, guy named Luis Vega, doing time for Medicare fraud. Ethan offered him 10 grand to deliver a message to you. Vega wore a wire. Here, listen. Russ played the recording on his phone. Tell Carter he's a dead man if he testifies. We know where his mom lives in Boca. We know his brother's address in Hoboken. Accidents happen. Luis, make sure he understands. I felt my stomach tighten. That's witness tampering. That's RICO predicate. Exactly. AUSA Reyes is adding it to the indictment today. But here's the play. We don't tell Claire about the Vega recording. We let her think her fake emails are working. We let her walk into court confident. Then we drop the metadata bomb and the tampering charge. She'll fold. And Ethan? He's already indicted on 12 counts. This makes 13. He's looking at a decade minimum. I thought about Claire's face during the grand jury testimony. The coldness, the entitlement. She won't fold. She'll double down. She'll say I doctored the metadata. Then we bring in a forensic expert, someone from MITRE or FTI. They'll testify that the original emails predate the transfers, and the printouts were manipulated using software available on Chase's internal network. Software Claire had access to. Petrakis will attack the expert's credibility. She can try. But juries love experts who speak in plain English. We'll prep him to say, the digital fingerprints don't lie. Simple. Effective. I sighed. I still don't like it. I want more. More what? More insurance. I want access to Claire's internal Chase activity logs. The ones Miranda, Ortiz pulled during the EDDA. Specifically, the audit trail of her changes to transaction descriptions. Reyes already has them. They're part of the evidence package. I want to see them. I want to see if she changed anything after I filed the SAR. Russ paused. That's risky. If you view them, Petrakis can argue you had access to discoverable material and didn't disclose. But if Reyes lets you see them as a government witness, it's protected. He made a call. 10 minutes later, Reyes emailed a redacted PDF. I scrolled through pages of timestamps, user IDs, action codes. There, at 11:47 p.m. On August 21st, 7 hours after I filed the SAR, Claire accessed the wire transfer records and changed the description from Hale Capital Partners, Investmental Internal Reconciliation, Client Refund. The audit log captured her user ID, terminal number, and the fact that she overrode a system lock. Got it, I said. She tampered with evidence after the SAR. That's obstruction. That's a separate felony. Even better. Russ said, now we got her on conspiracy, wire fraud, structuring, and obstruction. Reyes will love it. That night, I met with Agent Tran at a diner in Chelsea. She slid a photo across the table. Grainy, but clear enough. Ethan meeting a man outside a bar in the Bronx. The caption, known associate of Genovese's crime family. Ethan's not just defrauding investors. Tran said, he's borrowing from a mob to stay liquid. When he couldn't pay, he used Claire's bank access to steal from clients. That's why the transfers accelerated in July. And the mob's not happy. I guess they're very unhappy, which is why Ethan's threatening you. He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes, like tampering with witnesses, like recording himself tampering with witnesses. Vega's testimony is gold, but we need you to wear a wire too. I stared at her. Absolutely not. Ethan's dangerous. And Claire, if she smells a setup, she'll lawyer up and clam up. It's voluntary. But think about it. One conversation with Claire, recorded, where she admits to altering records or knowing about Ethan's threats. That seals it. I shook my head. I'll testify. I'll provide documents. But I'm not wearing a wire. That's entrapment bait. Tran didn't push. She just gathered the photos. Fair enough, but stay close to your phone. We're moving on the indictment this week. And Dan, watch your back. Ethan's got nothing left to lose. I drove home to the hotel and checked my email. A message from an encrypted account. You should have taken the deal. Carter, now you'll lose everything. Starting with your reputation. Attached, a screenshot of my Morgan Stanley login page. Timestamped that evening. Someone had been in my hotel room or remotely accessed my laptop. I called Russ. They hacked me or bugged my room. Either way, they're watching. Change all your passwords. Enable two-factor and get a new burner. I'll call Reyes. We'll escalate the protective order. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with news alert. Federal indictment expected in Chase Bank fraud case. Below it, a quote from an unnamed source. The husband's role is under scrutiny. He may have enabled the scheme. I threw the phone across the room. They were already spinning the narrative. Me, the enabler. Me, the greedy risk analyst. Me, the fall guy. But I had the logs. I had the recordings. I had the truth. And tomorrow, I'd sign the cooperating witness agreement. Not because I trusted the system, but because I trusted the numbers. And the numbers said Claire and Ethan were guilty. I just had to make sure the jury saw it that way. The sentencing hearing was set for 10 a.m. On a Friday. I arrived early, suit pressed, hair combed, stomach empty. Russ met me outside the courtroom. Last chance to back out of the impact statement. He said, I'm not backing out. Petrakis will try to paint you as vindictive. The judge might cut Claire a break if he thinks you're settling scores. I'm not settling scores. I'm stating facts. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Ethan sat next to his new lawyer, shackled at the wrists, looking thinner, older. Claire was already at the defense table, wearing a charcoal dress and minimal makeup. She didn't look at me. Judge Ramirez called the case. United States versus Hale. Eyal, the AUSA, a woman named Lindsay Cho this time, stood. Your Honor, the government admits that the defendants engaged in a sophisticated scheme to defraud investors and misappropriate marital and trust assets totaling $4. $2 million. Mr. Hale served as the architect, using his barred status to operate through shell entities. Ms. Bennett abused her position at Chase to facilitate the transfers, alter records, and obstruct justice. We recommend 87 months for Mr. Hale and 72 months for Ms. Bennett, followed by supervised release and full restitution. Petrakis rose. Your Honor, Ms. Bennett's role was ancillary. She acted under the undue influence of a manipulative ex-husband. She believed the funds would be repaid. There is no evidence she benefited personally. We asked for a downward variance to 36 months, followed by home confinement. Ethan's lawyer mumbled something about minimal criminal history and acceptance of responsibility. It rang hollow. Then Judge Ramirez looked at me. Mr. Carter, you indicated you wished to address the court. I stood. My voice didn't shake. Your Honor, I've spent the last decade assessing risk for a living. I quantify probabilities, model outcomes, advise clients on how to protect their assets. I did not protect mine. I trusted my wife. I trusted her when she said the transfers were temporary. I trusted her when she said Ethan was being framed. I was wrong. The $4, $2 million taken from our accounts and from Chase clients wasn't a loan. It wasn't an investment. It was theft, and it was enabled by my wife's deliberate actions. Actions she took while fully aware they were legal. She altered bank records after I filed a SAR. She attempted to manufacture evidence to implicate me. She allowed a convicted felon to use our marriage as a shield for his fraud. I am not here for revenge. I am here because the record must reflect the truth. I was a victim of this scheme, not a participant, and I urge the court to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of that scheme, the breach of fiduciary duty by a bank officer, and the need to deter others in positions of trust from similar conduct. I sat down. Russ gave me a small nod. Petrakis leaned toward Claire and whispered. Claire's jaw tightened. Judge Ramirez took 10 minutes to deliberate from the bench. Mr. Hale, you have a prior felony conviction for securities fraud. You were prohibited from working in the industry, yet you orchestrated the scheme from the shadows. Your disregard for the law is long-standing. 72 months. Ethan didn't react. Ms. Bennett, you held a position of significant trust at a major financial institution. You exploited that trust to facilitate fraud, obstructed justice by altering records, and attempted to shift blame to your husband. The court finds no credible evidence of coercion. 60 months. 60 months. 5 years. Less than I expected. More than she hoped. Claire turned to me then. Finally, her eyes were wet, but her voice, when she spoke, was steady. You'll rot alone. Dan. I didn't respond. I just gathered my coat and walked out. The hallway was a blur of cameras and shouted questions. Mr. Carter, how do you feel? Will you divorce her? Any comment on the sentence? I kept walking until I reached the elevator. Agent Tran was waiting. You handled that well, she said. I didn't do it for the cameras. I know. We've recovered about 40% of the assets so far. The rest is gone. Offshore accounts. Crypto. Cash withdrawals. Restitution will be slow. I didn't expect to see it again. Still, you did the right thing. I rode the elevator down in silence. Outside, the sun was bright. I walked to the subway, bought a paper, and read the headline, Banker's Wife, ex-husband sentenced in $4 million fraud scheme. My name was in the third paragraph. Victim, not villain. For now. 2 weeks later, I resigned from Morgan Stanley. My boss tried to talk me out of it. You're cleared, Daniel. Your judgment was sound. But I couldn't sit at that desk anymore, staring at screens that reminded me of the alerts I'd missed, the warnings I'd ignored. I moved to New Jersey, rented a small apartment, and took a job teaching introductory finance at a community college. The pay was a fraction of what I'd earned, but the silence was worth it. I changed my number, deleted social media, told my family I needed space. Life became routine. Teach, grade, eat, sleep, repeat. 18 months passed. Then, one Tuesday, I found an envelope in my faculty mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name, typed inside, a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was familiar, looping, precise. Do you ever wonder if we could have fixed it? I read it once, twice. Then I walked the parking lot, Liamach, and burned it. The paper curled black, the words disappearing into ash. I watched until there was nothing left. I got into my car and drove home. That night, I slept through without dreaming. The next morning, I taught my class. We covered the time value of money. A student asked why anyone would commit fraud when the math always catches up. I told him the truth. Because people don't think they'll get caught. And because emotions, loyalty, resentment, love, they skew the numbers. But the numbers don't care. They're impartial. They always balance. After class, I erased the board, gathered my notes, and turned off the lights. As I locked the door, I thought about Claire, somewhere upstate, wearing orange, counting days. I thought about Ethan, probably still scheming. And I thought about the letter. Could we have fixed it? Maybe, if she'd told the truth, if she'd chosen us over him, if I'd seen the signs sooner. But maybe is a number. It's a variable. And in the end, the equation only works with facts. I walked out into the cold morning air, my breath fogging in front of me. The campus was quiet. The road ahead was clear. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't look back.